Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augment Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I am your host as usual, and obviously welcome back to the show. Today's episode 193 of the show. Before we get started into the house cleaning quick, because, well, you guys know I like to do it around here. It only makes sense if we do it, so let's just get on with the house cleaning, because, man, today has just been a long day. I'm just being honest with you guys. It's only Tuesday at the time I was recording, and man, it's already been a long week. But I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening to today's episode. It really does mean a lot to me. You guys constantly take time out of your days to download these episodes, to share these episodes, to constantly keep letting me know how you feel, whether you like my stupid face or not, even though you can't see my face today, because man, have we been running into so many issues trying to get this damn thing to work. I'm just being honest with you. It's already been a wild time trying to get this thing to work, which we'll talk about a little bit near the end. But thank you guys so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And thank you to the Patreon backers, because you guys get early access to these episodes, but you also pay for it. And if you want to become a Patreon backer, you can click the doobly link down below and, well, become a Patreon backer. But I do also want to say thank you guys for helping the show hit 2,700 total downloads. I really, really do appreciate it. I do want to see if we can try to get the last 300 by the end of the year so we can hit 3,000. Hopefully we can hit 3,000 by the 3-year anniversary, which is in January. So we got plenty of time, guys. I know we can get this done. I know you guys can get it done. But with all of that out of the way, let's get into today's episode, which I do want to say, yes, today's episode is an audio version due to the fact that we'll talk about what went wrong at the very end of today's episode. So stick around for that if you're interested of hearing how this entire shit show went downhill. Thank you for listening. Anyways, today's episode, we're talking about Intel's Alder Lake processors, or 12th gen Intel. And this has been a very interesting thing that I've been keeping tabs on. I've been watching a lot of videos. Just being honest with you guys, I've been watching a lot of these videos while working out because it just helps me get through that. But it's very interesting to see how Intel has really turned things around and has brought back a sense of competition in the CPU space. Because let's be real here, guys. I'm someone that when the 3000 series of AMD came out, I was on the bandwagon. I loved it. I thought Intel was pretty much dead at that point. And then once the 5000 series came out, then it was just like, okay, game over. And then in laptops, we saw Apple abandon Intel. And then at the same time, AMD laptops, like prime example, like my Acer Swift X that I have. This isn't promotion. It's just the laptop that I use primarily right now. The Acer Swift X, it's a Ryzen CPU. It gets me better battery life than any Intel processor that's just the reality. Is in the laptop space. Well, yes, Intel is still very prominent. AMD with their better battery life, and now even Apple with their M1 chips, M1 Pro, M1 Max, are getting substantially better battery life than their Intel counterparts. And Intel hasn't really been in the best of light, especially after the launch of the 10th gen Intel and then what happened with the 11th gen. It just really wasn't a good situation. Now, AMD didn't help that they made Intel a more value-oriented brand, especially when it came to gaming, because yes, AMD did raise their prices with the 5000 series, and since a lot of people weren't buying a lot of Intel parts, they were much easier to get, cheaper to get, and they provided similar, if not better, performance in some certain workloads. But here we are with 12th gen Intel, and this is where things get very interesting, because to me, I do agree that it's very cool with the whole performance cores and efficiency cores, similar to how Apple is doing with their M1 architecture. But what I really care about is like this improvement trickling down to laptops, and why, for me, the 12th generation is going to be very impactful when it gets to laptops, because the fact that the efficiency cores, as we've seen, if Intel can probably work the same magic that Apple did with their processors, that they have performance cores, efficiency cores, if they're able to make this happen and make this transition smooth and make it easy, especially into the laptop space, I think Intel could start to take a lot of market share back in the laptop space, if I'm just being honest with you guys. But when it comes to the desktop side, yes, this is what we have right now. We can think about the laptops as much as we want, but we don't have those right now. We have desktops. Here are some of my early observations, I would say concerns. Okay, I'm just going to point this out. The thermals on these chips are extremely ridiculous. Like, I get it that Intel was like, look, our chips run hot. We get it. We want the most performance possible. I do think that if a Noctua DH15 is struggling to keep this thing under 70 to 80 degrees, yeah, we got a bit of a problem here, guys. Like, the fact that you definitely need some heavy duty like cooling for these suckers is absurd. Now we want to talk about performance. Yes, the performance gains are incredible, especially compared from 11th gen to 12th gen, and then even from 10th gen to 12th gen, it's like night and day. But I get why some people are a bit skeptical. They're not really happy with Intel. Like, some people have been honest. They've shared their thoughts that they don't feel as if the jump of like a 20% performance jump really makes any, like, it's great and everything, but AMD has consistently done it every single year with their processors. And I'm like, oh yeah, I get that. But we have to think about it from this perspective, because I get it. It's like, I was watching a video this morning where the idea of doing objective reviews is very hard because we all have our own personal biases. We all have, our biases of what we like, what we don't like. And in a case like this, yeah, we have to learn to temper a bit of those biases. Like, I'm just being honest with you guys. I love AMD. Now, I've also stated multiple times that I would never buy an AMD graphics card for what I like to do, because like I said, for streaming and video editing and audio editing and what I like to do, yeah, I'm going to go with NVIDIA all the time, especially for streaming too, because that's those cores the CUDA cores are definitely very nice and juicy. Not even just the CUDA cores, just the drivers that NVIDIA has, and a lot of the software optimizations that they have for streaming, for video editing, for these certain like creator workflows is definitely much better than AMD. Unless you use, say, like something like DaVinci Resolve, where, yeah, then at that point it probably will do better on AMD. But the fact that we have competition again in the CPU space is very, very needed, especially the fact that, yeah, I'm just being honest with you guys, AMD needs to get taken down a peg. I do think they got a little bit too hot-headed with the 5000 series with their crazy pricing. I think they went, just being honest with you guys, like all the AMD fanboys have been circle jerking them way too much. And I'm like, okay, guys, we get it. AMD is great. They made some great processors. They have made some great GPUs to help take market share from NVIDIA. Let's not pretend that they're perfect and they make all the right choices. Prime example, the whole incident with the B450 boards. And then the example that happened with, they could have taken a lot of market share from NVIDIA with the launch of the 6000 series if they had just priced them correctly. But not even just that, but actually get them in the hands of consumers, because people wanted new graphics cards. And the cards were great in terms of performance. It's just when it came to pricing, yeah, pricing screwed them in the butt because they decided to go way overboard. And MSRP was these cards, you're never going to get them for their MSRP. You never will. Even like, they never will, because that's how the board partners decided to go in that direction, was charge like what I think, like when they first came out, it was like what, $200 to $300 over the reference model. Like, yee, like, you want to talk about like an entire shit show. Look at that situation. But I think the fact that AMD got a little bit too cocky in this whole situation, that they knew they had the lead, they knew that they were in the enthusiast market, they knew that people liked buying their products for professional work and gaming now, that people didn't really see Intel as a viable option for them. The fact that now Intel has come out swinging with this incredible new processor, we're not like, I get it. Are there flaws? Are there limitations? Yes, I do think the thermals are a very concerning factor. I think that in order to truly unlock the most performance out of these things, the fact that people are saying you have to get Windows 11, which a lot of people don't feel comfortable upgrading to Windows 11, because let's be real here, yeah, you're gonna need to iron out a lot of bugs before we even consider that. Like, I'm probably not going to upgrade to Windows 11 until like maybe 2 to 3 years afterwards. I'm probably not going to touch that sucker till maybe 2023 at bare minimum. Like, I'm just being honest with you guys. Windows 10 works. I get it. Some people say with an asterisk mark, but it just works. I'm kind of seeing that more and more today, given current circumstances. But with Intel bringing back the competition into this space, I think it's good. I think it's healthy. I think it's what we needed in the tech space, especially when it comes to the PC market. Because right now, yeah, there's a chip shortage. It's not easy to get the chips that we want. Now, another problem that I have really comes down to, well, yes, the CPU pricing is fair for these new CPUs. I'm just being honest with you guys. I think if you think of the whole package, this is where pricing can become a very big issue. And what am I referring to exactly? We're referring to the Z690 boards, and we're referring to the DDR5, which was one of the big upgrades that came with the Intel processors, which I'm just being honest with you guys. I'm not going to go into performance. I'm not going to go into benchmarking and stuff like that, because if you really want to watch videos like that, I'm not the person to come watch that, because I'm being honest with you. I don't have these chips. I can't test these things. I don't have a testing environment to even begin testing these things. There's a lot of people who, dedicate their entire channels to this kind of stuff. So go watch them for that. You're here to listen to some commentary of some schmuck that's in his college dorm room talking about tech that he doesn't own. Whoop-de-doo. But at least we make it enjoyable. Just being honest with you guys, at least we make it enjoyable on some levels, if you guys find this enjoyable. I find myself I know we're going on side rant, but going back to the Alder Lake stuff, we're talking about the whole package. Yes, it does get very expensive. The Z690 boards are not cheap, and the fact that because of DDR5, with these processors, they're both compatible. So you can use DDR4, you can use DDR5. The only problem with the motherboards is whichever motherboard you buy is not backwards compatible. So if you buy a DDR5 motherboard, you can only use DDR5 RAM with it. If you buy a DDR4 motherboard, you can't use DDR5. So you have to choose wisely on which one you want. And DDR5 RAM is not the most cost friendly right now, if we're just being honest with you guys. It's not the most cost efficient. It's definitely very expensive for the gains that you get. Now, as time goes on, we're going to see some big benefits. We're going to see price drops, because that's what happens with the whole RAM. I get it with RAM, RAM standards. Like when we went from DDR4 or DDR3 to DDR4, it was about like a 10 plus year gap. And then now from DDR4 to DDR5 is about 7 to 8 years. So don't be surprised if, because of how fast technology is moving, we get DDR6 like in 5 years. I wouldn't be surprised if that time frame shrinks. But right now, yes, DDR5 is very expensive. It's not the most entry-level friendly, especially for new builds. And given that we're currently in a market where there's a chip shortage and, these very high in demand parts are going to go out of stock. Hint, hint, look at GPUs, and hint, hint, look at most of the Ryzen CPUs. Heck, even these new Intel CPUs are probably almost out of stock. Well, I've seen a couple in stock at Micro Center. I've seen the i7s, which is kind of funny because the i7 is not, a lot of people aren't talking about the i7, which I get it because of the value that the i5 provides, and then the 1200K, the big boy, the i9, the value that those two provide, especially for performance. I think the i7 does provide a lot of good value for where it's at. I think with what it's competing with, yeah, it completely shat all over the 5800X. And yeah, it trades blows with the 5900 and 5950X. Yeah, that's very impressive. The fact that the i7 is a good value, and for what you get out of it, it's a good processor too. So, but I think the overall package with Alder Lake is the big issue, because yeah, you're gonna have to drop some fat cash. And right now, you already gotta drop fat cash on your GPU. Like, my computer has got a 3070 now. I had to drop some fat cash for that, man. And now, am I seeing the benefits with my editing workflow? Oh yeah, I'm seeing a lot of benefits with that. But I think with Intel, like I keep harping back on this point because it's just so important that you guys have to realize this is this the first time that Intel has really provided this big of a jump in gains? Yes. Should we downplay this? No, I think that'd be very foolish to downplay this jump, especially because, I understand that AMD, AMD fanboys, AMD loyalists, whatever you want to call them, that yes, they understand that AMD has provided a consistent 20% jump, or if not more, each generation. We acknowledge that's true, but let's not try to downplay what Intel has done here, because this is what the market needs. A market needs healthy competition, because now that Intel is actually swinging for the fences, and now they're actually outperforming AMD in gaming specifically, obviously in creator workflows and things like that. Yes, AMD is still going to be better because of the more threads and stuff like that. But the fact that Intel is bringing competition back into the market is incredible. I think this is what we've been needing for a while, and I'm excited to see where AMD goes with their next generation of processors and how they're going to compete with this Alder Lake. How are they going to compete with it? Because Intel, yeah, I think Intel is going to gain a lot of share. I think this architecture going in the direction of performance cores with E-cores, I think this is going to be very, very exciting in the laptop space. I think we could see a chance, I'm saying this now, just my prediction, we could end up seeing Intel laptops with insane battery life because of this. Because obviously they're not going to have the same thermal unrestrictedness that the desktops have, because on the desktop you can liquid cool these things, you can cool them with nitrogen, you can cool them with whatever you want. But in a laptop, you have a more limited space. I'm interested to see how the battery life improves with a lot of Intel laptops using these processors. I think we're in for a very, very interesting treat. I think we're gonna see a big shift in the laptop space. I could probably see Apple, like some people talked about it, like the head, I think it was the CEO of Intel talked about that. Yeah, they're trying to get Apple back. They want to get Apple back as a customer to, use them and their processors. Now, I don't think they're going to 100% go back to them. I'm just being honest with you guys. But I do think for very specific products like the Mac Pro is the one that I'm very intrigued to see if they'll go all in and just make an M1 version of it, or if they'll make another generation Intel. I think with the Mac Pro, upgradability is key. I think the fact that, with the last Mac Pro, with people investing in the afterburner cards and stuff like that, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out, especially because if Intel keeps improving on this architecture with the E-cores, the performance cores, if they keep improving on this architecture and maybe get it down to 7 nanometer, right now it's a 10 nanometer process, which they've been working on this for a while. But say if they get it down to 7 nanometers, I think it's going to be very crazy, guys. I think we're in for a big boom. I think we're in for a healthy shift in the market that has been needed for a while, because let's be real, AMD has been dominating the space in desktops and laptops since the 3000 series and now the 5000 series, because obviously in laptops, 5000 series AMD processors are very popular because of their great battery life, great performance. They're being bundled with dedicated GPUs. To be honest, I think it's going to be a very interesting time to see how the space grows. And I think people that try to downplay this whole situation with Intel and downplay Intel's improvements and say, oh, this is the first time they've done it, could have took them long enough. Yeah, they took forever and we dogged them for it. I'm just being honest with you guys. We dogged Intel hard because, well, they were being, I would say, not incompetent, but while they were being stagnant, their competition was constantly improving and was much hungrier, much more determined, much more driven. But now the roles have switched. Now Intel has become more humble. They've become more understanding, like, hey, we're not the top dog anymore. We want to earn our seat back. And yeah, they came out swinging. I'm very interested to see how this all plays out. And the value propositions, like I said, that these new chips provide is very good. The problem is the price to entry with the whole package is the main issue because of DDR5, because of the Z690 boards. But I feel like once we start getting more of these Intel boards that are not the Z690 boards, but more entry-level boards, I think we're going to start seeing a much more competitive scene, because AMD reduced their pricing on their processors across the board because they're like, yeah, we can't, like, now the 5800X is under $300 or 300 even. The fact that the 5900X is like under $500, the fact that now the 5950X is under $700 when it was over $700 before, I think we're in for a very good treat, guys. And for you guys that are upgrading your computers, maybe from, say, 8th gen, 9th gen, i7, i9s, i5s, i3s, or maybe you're on the 10th gen or the 11th gen and you're looking to upgrade. What do you guys think? Do you guys think you're going to probably upgrade? Do you guys think that you're going to wait it out, see how it all turns out in the end? Or for the AMD loyalist, are you going to switch? Or are you just going to wait to see what AMD does next year? For me personally, like I've said this multiple times, I'm not planning on upgrading my processor until I see how the 6000 series turns out. For me, I skipped the 5000 series. My 3900X does everything I want it to do. But if we see like a massive jump from the 5000 series to the 6000 series, I might upgrade. And if there's not that big of a jump, I'm just going to hold out. I think it also comes down to AMD's talked about how they're going to switch their architecture up. So that's why I kind of don't feel like upgrading, because we know that they're going to switch their architecture up pretty soon. So it doesn't make a lot of logical sense to try to buy a new processor when the new ones are probably going to end up replacing the board in general, and we're going to have to use a whole new architecture and stuff like that. So in my mind, I would just say wait, look at more performance, do your homework, be informed when you're buying this kind of stuff, because like I said, the thermals on these things, you better pray to the sweet Lord in heaven that you have the cooling necessary for these suckers, because these suckers are going to run hot. I'm telling you this right now. You better pray that you have the necessary cooling. But again, I thank you guys for coming back and listening to today's episode. It really does mean a lot to me. You guys constantly take time of your days to download and share these episodes and listen to them. I really do appreciate it. You know, because most of you guys probably listen to these episodes while you're working out, or you're driving home from work. Maybe you're on lunch at work. Maybe you're just at work and you're just listening to this while you're working. At the end of the day, I appreciate it. I really, really do appreciate you guys. But I do also want to explain a little bit what's been happening, because, man, it's just been wild. So many technical difficulties. Windows is being extremely weird with my camera, my cam length. Like it works a little bit, it works in Discord, and then in Zoom call, it works perfectly fine. The second I try hitting record on OBS, it just like, don't want to work. Outside of that, I got a new boom arm. I was going to show that in this video, that I have the new Elgato low profile boom arm, and I'm really loving this boom arm. I would say for people that are interested in a more affordable but extremely well built boom arm, I think this Elgato one is a great value. It's exactly what I wanted it to do and be, and I'm very happy with what I got. I also want to say I'm very excited this month. This is I know we'll talk about it a little bit more, and I'll probably do an episode about it, where this month is the ring ceremony here at college. So I'm very excited for that, for my family to come out here, for my friends to watch it live on YouTube and Facebook. I'm very excited for this opportunity that the school is giving me. I'm very excited for this opportunity to be the first person in my family to really do this kind of stuff. And it's a very interesting time, and I'm very happy and I'm excited. I will also say, in terms of the internships, I wanted to announce that I did receive offers, and I did accept my first offer, and I'm very happy with the company. I'm very grateful for the opportunity they've extended out to me. For me, this has been a great opportunity that I know that my Father in heaven has provided, and I only pray that everything turns out well. But outside of all that, guys, it's definitely just been very wild. But I know at the end of the day, as wild as things can get, I know at the end of the day, everything will work itself out. But as always, guys, thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you so much for your love. I really do appreciate it. Again, I apologize because this episode is an audio version, but we'll hopefully be back to video versions by next week. Hopefully, as long as we can figure out this issue and how to resolve it. But until next time, guys, I love you guys to death. I hope you have yourselves a wonderful weekend, guys. And as always, don't do anything dumb. I'll see you guys next week, guys. Bye.
Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.